Nutrient timing is a popular nutritional strategy involving eating combinations of nutrients around an exercise session. The theory, I believe, is that by eating food at specific times, you can actually achieve dramatic improvements in your body composition and your results. I'll admit, going into this interview, I know nothing about nutrient timing or nutrient timing for bodybuilding. So I've asked 21 times female bodybuilding champion Sarah Taylor to join me and explain. In this series, we're exploring health and wellness under the premise that some illnesses and diseases may actually be avoidable. And each week I interview wellness experts and we dive deep into an aspect of health and wellness with the aim of giving you greater understanding so that you are free to make the best choices for your health based on your own individual uniqueness. If you want to explore your health and wellness, subscribe and hit the bell to get notified about all of our latest uploads as soon as they happen. And if this channel can help your friends and family, please also share it with them too. This week we're diving deep into nutrient timing for bodybuilding with Sarah Taylor. So today we're talking about nutrient timing and bodybuilding. Sarah, let's start off. Tell us what nutrient timing is.
Well, nutrient timing is where you plan to have specific elements of your food at a specific time of the day or during the week even. And it's usually planned in conjunction with whatever your current goal is right now, for example. So you might want to have it in a fat loss context. You might want to have it in a muscle building context. You might want to have it in an endurance kind of sport context. It's just a strategy for, I guess, creating structure or bring structure into your nutrition strategy for whatever your sport is or whatever your goal is.
Perfect. Okay. And in terms of nutrient timing, what are the benefits when it comes to bodybuilding?
Okay. In terms of bodybuilding, I guess the key principle behind it is the fact that if you time your nutrients correctly around your training, it can actually stimulate greater muscle growth. Now, as with many of these kind of topics, there's an awful lot of conjecture, and there's plenty of studies that prove this theory. There's plenty of studies that counter the principle. But fundamentally, there's a number of core truths really. So in terms of bodybuilding, it is well established that if you have sort of carbohydrates around your workouts, you're going to get less muscle breakdown, and you're going to stimulate greater levels of, I guess, glycogen replenishment after your workout. If you time your protein, if you stack it again within and around your workout, it's going to stimulate greater muscle protein synthesis, which consequently helps you build your muscles. But then there's also, it's also known that people who have, particularly when it comes to protein, people who have less protein at the start of the day and more protein at the end of the day, yet they train earlier in the day, they tend to build less muscle than those who have the greater amount of protein at the start of the day around their training than towards the end of the day. So there's 1,000 ways to sort of slice up nutrient timing, but it does, in general, it does appear to help stimulate greater muscle levels of muscle growth. And look, it's a strategy that I specifically use myself.
Okay. So just talk about it a little bit more, just so that I can really kind of understand it. If I was doing, let's say, bodybuilding workout, I'm wanting to work on muscle, that kind of thing. If I wanted to build muscle, when would be the best time for me? Let's say I work out in the morning. When would be the best time for me to be having my carbs and proteins, and what kind of things maybe should I be thinking about?
Okay, so for somebody who works out in the morning, it's always a good idea to get some kind of nutrition, have some kind of nutrition before you work out. The reason being is because your body's, you've been asleep, your body's in a sort of semi-fasted state. So if you then go into a heavy resistance training session, your muscles during your resistance training session, your muscles are broken down anyway. This is how you'll actually ultimately get muscle protein growth. But if you don't have any food in you or any available sort of either glycogen or amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, then your body is much more likely to actually tap into your own reserves of muscle in order to get that energy. So fasted training can actually lead to greater, can lead to a bit of muscle loss. Okay. So if you're training in the morning, it's always a good idea to have some protein. So you've got the amino acids circulating in your blood system, and some carbohydrates as well, because then it'll start to encourage the production of insulin. Now, with insulin and cortisol, cortisol is generally spiked during your training, and cortisol is a factor in muscle protein breakdown or muscle, catabolism. However, there's an inverse relationship between insulin and cortisol. So if you've got insulin circulating in your blood system as well, it'll actually dampen the effect of cortisol. So having some protein and carbohydrates before you work out will give you some amino acids and some stimulation of insulin production, which will protect your muscles during your workout. Then once you've finished your workout, in order to replace the energy you've burnt and also to stimulate the muscle growth, it's a good idea to have a carbohydrate and protein meal, not as soon as you possibly can. I mean, there used to be this myth that you had to eat within 30 minutes of your workout or your arms would fall off, sort of thing. Not true. As long as you have a really well-constructed meal within about 3 hours of your workout, you'll get the stimulation of and it primarily needs to be protein and carbohydrates. You'll stimulate insulin production, which will dampen down the effects of cortisol. You'll get yourself into a much more anabolic environment much more quickly.
So it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, is it potentially, if you don't eat before a workout, let's say you've fasted overnight, you've got up, you've started to exercise, and you haven't eaten anything, potentially you might be doing yourself more harm than good in terms of building muscle and strengthening your body.
Absolutely. And competitive bodybuilders, there's very, very few of them that will ever do fasted resistance training, because the resistance training itself breaks down your muscles. So if you do that in a fasted state where your body, like I say, doesn't have any nutrition to sort of tap into, it's going to tap into your muscles. So fasted resistance training really it's not a good strategy if you're aiming to build muscle. And look, this is why a lot of bodybuilders also tend not to use the ketogenic diet as well, because it's relatively low in protein anyway, and it's incredibly low in carbohydrates. You're not going to get so much of the core muscle building nutrition that would give you a greater sort of muscle building effect. So a lot of bodybuilders are actually fairly wary of the ketogenic diet, and that again has been proven to not produce as much muscle growth as a sort of a higher protein carbohydrate based diet.
So I'm thinking, from what you're saying, I might need to change the way that I work out, in a way that I need to eat something potentially before I work out now. But one of the things I do is I have like a protein shake that I make up. It's got kind of lots of nice protein powders in it, like chlorella, pea protein, hemp, wheatgrass, barley grass, that kind of thing. I mix all that up and I have that. So it's I suppose like a vegan protein shake. I mean, would that work in terms of protein input?
Absolutely. Pea protein and hemp protein, it breaks down, they're proteins. They break down to amino acids, and the amino acids are the building blocks of muscle. So yes, that's perfectly fine. I mean, usually I would have, a chunk of chicken or something like that. But if I'm short on time, absolutely, I'll have a protein shake. Because another advantage of a protein shake is it's relatively quick and easy to digest. So those amino acids will get into you much quicker. And things like the chlorella, if you've got that in it, there will be an element of carbohydrates as well. You might want to, you might want to consider putting some honey in that too, or you might want to even have a piece of fruit with that as well, just to give you that additional carbohydrates.
Oh, Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. I'm just thinking for people who work out later in the day, I'm thinking that there would be less of a problem potentially in terms of like they've eaten several meals potentially as the day's gone on, and maybe they work out in the evening. Would that be true, do you think? Or
Yes, absolutely. You know, if you work out, say, at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, you've had a whole day's eating to replenish or, you know, provide that nutrition that you're going to need for your workout. So really, I guess nutrient timing is probably more critical if you're an early trainer. And you know, I'm a morning trainer, so I always make sure that I prioritize it's called intra-workout nutrition.
So today we're talking about nutrient timing and bodybuilding. Give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying the content, getting some great stuff from this. And also tell us your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what's going on for you, what you're doing, how you know, if you're already trying nutrient timing, or if you're not and you're new to it, tell us where you're at. So could you give us some ideas? What would be the ideal types of food? You mentioned like proteins. What would be the best types of proteins? What would be the best types of carbs?
Well, to a degree, there's a lot of personal preference. Some people might just want egg on toast. There's nothing wrong with egg on toast. It's probably not necessarily an ideal one, because you actually want to minimize, in order to get the nutrition into you as quickly as possible, you want sort of easy to digest foods. So that would suggest things like white rice, for example. But most people that I know certainly don't really like white rice for breakfast. So you could have a banana. Those can work quite well because they're quite starchy. Another thing I often do is have a chunk of sweet potato. So I'll have a chunk of chicken and a chunk of sweet potato. The reason being for those is that the chicken's a very lean protein. So there's no fat. You want to minimize the fats, because fats actually slow down the digestion of both your protein and your carbohydrates. So it takes longer to get into you. If you're short on time, particularly if you're a morning trainer or you're not used to eating in the morning, you want something that's light. So this is where protein powders really excel, because particularly whey protein, it's designed to be digested quickly and easily. So it provides those amino acids very quickly. You could mix it into, you could have a protein shake with fruit juice, for example. Now, fruit juice is not something that I have because it's sort of too artificial, but you could have your protein shake with fruit juice, because then you've got some very quickly digesting carbohydrates as well as quickly digesting proteins, which will just get into you very quickly. Now, after your workout, again, you want foods that will be digested easily and quickly. So again, for those people who can't get to a place where they can have a meal within a couple of hours of their training, again, protein powders lend themselves incredibly well for this. And this is exactly what protein powders are designed to do. It's designed specifically really for your peri-workout nutrition. So I like chicken because it's very, very lean. Sometimes I have a steak, a very lean steak as well. I tend to have, if I'm going to have bread, I tend to have, I might have white bread, or I actually do a lemon and ginger drink with honey. Again, honey is a very, very, it's a very, very clean source of carbohydrates. So I keep my sources of carbohydrates very clean and quite small, because you don't want to have a huge meal just sitting in your stomach when you're doing your workout. So something small and very easily digestible is the way to go.
Amazing. Okay, thank you. What would be the first steps for someone who's never done nutrient timing with their bodybuilding or their strength training?
Well, again, I guess if let's say somebody who trains in the morning and they're not used to training, they're not used to eating, before they train. Yeah. Then the first step is to try and get used to eating something. And like I say, this is where the protein powders work exceptionally well, because you could have half a scoop of protein powder in just some water or a bit of milk or something, or even, like I say, a bit of fruit juice. So it would only be a relatively small glass, and you could just drink that before you go, and that wouldn't create it wouldn't just bloat you in any way. So yeah. Start small. Particularly if you're not used to eating before you train, start small. I guess the place to focus on first would be make sure you eat before you train, so that you're fueled appropriately for your training. Once you've got that bit down pat, then start to focus on making sure that you get some good nutrition within a reasonable time. So probably within about anywhere up to sort of about an hour or even an hour and a half after your workout. Make sure you have some more food. And again, if you have a sort of piece of chicken and a piece of baked sweet potato, that can be plenty. It's just enough to tide you over until you can have a really proper meal. But start with the before workout nutrition. And like I say, protein and carbohydrates is best, minimal fats. Then go to the after workout nutrition. And again, protein and carbohydrates, minimal fats. And then go to having a proper meal. Now, if you happen to train in the evening, you've kind of got the opposite problem to the morning, because you'll have eaten all day, so you'll be fine. So you probably don't really need to do anything there. But what happens is then you get home and you're going to have to squeeze in a big meal before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Again, there's if you finish your training, let's say finish training at 8 o'clock at night, for example, and it took you half an hour to get home, and then you would want to have a meal of some description. Make sure that you've got your protein shake with you at the gym, so you can have that straight away, so you've got something in you. And then when you get home, you might just want to you probably only have a bit of a snack. So you might just have, some eggs on toast with some tomatoes and some spinach or something. Nothing too heavy. But what you can do at night, and there's another protein that is really, really good at night, and it's called casein. Micellar casein. And this is a very slow digesting protein that will actually keep you full overnight. So it'll allow you to have a smaller sort of snack type meal after your workout before you go to bed. So you're not, again, feeling bloated when you go to bed. And casein has been shown to provide a greater level of muscle growth as well, because it's this constant slow drip feed of amino acids overnight as you sleep.
Okay. So last month, when we were talking, I asked you to leave us with a challenge, and you gave us this challenge of 100 days of squats with one of the 3 challenges that you left us with, and I picked on that one, and I set myself up, if you remember, because you were saying do 100 days and you go from 1 to 100, and I said, well, I'm already doing about 50 a day, and then I said, I suppose I could start at 50 and I could go up to 150. So at the moment I'm at 110. So I'm making progress.
Well done.
And what I've noticed, I documented this in the challenge roundup that I do, that my run times have actually started to improve. So it's almost like I've got more strength in the thighs and in the hamstring kind of area, perhaps from doing those squats. Yeah.
It'll be improvement in the glutes, because they're the motor engine for running.
Yeah. So I'm impressed.
So if you want to improve your running, here's the thing you can do. If you want to improve your running, here's your challenge: sprints.
Do what? Sorry?
Sprint work. Sprint work. Yeah. So if you probably sort of 2 or 3 times a week, if you do a bit of sprint work, because I mean you see the bodies of sprinters, they've got amazing physiques. Yeah. They're very, very muscular.
Big power.
Particularly in the butt region, the glutes. So if you really work on your glutes and strengthen up your glutes, it's going to improve your running times, and you can do that through sprint work. So a very, very simple protocol that you can do is literally mark out a 25-meter, I don't know, track. I don't know, for want of a better word, not really quite. Mark out 25 paces and then do 10 sprints.
Yeah.
So you sprint flat out, walk back, take you twice as long to walk back as you did to get there. Rest for about sort of 30 seconds and go again. And just repeat that 10 times. And if you did that 3 times a week, then you'd probably see some benefits to, glute development and your fast twitch fibers, and it could even help your longer running times.
Cool. Well, I probably just stitched myself up again then, just mentioning that. But thank you for giving me another
careful what
challenge.
you wish for.
Let's
All right. So, okay. Well, do you want another challenge?
let's talk about a challenge specific to that. I mean, let's say that I do that one as well. But let's, for everyone who's watching this who wants to think about nutrient timing and bodybuilding, what would be a challenge that they could do for a day or for a week or for a month?
Well, if somebody's serious about their bodybuilding, they want to improve their lifts, lifts and strength, then yeah, absolutely get onto the nutrient timing. And the way to do it would be set up, say, a 4-week period could work quite well. So take some baseline measurements on some key lifts. So your bench press, your squat, and possibly your overhead press. Just take some baseline measurements. What am I lifting? And then just pay attention to I would just start with your before workout nutrition. If you've really nailed that, you should see some improvement. So that would be having some kind of protein and some kind of carbohydrates, probably about an hour to sort of 30 minutes to an hour before you work out, if possible. Now, I realize if you're an early bird, then that might mean you've got to get up a little bit earlier. But this is what I do, because I get up early and go straight out to training. I have a liquid protein and carbohydrates. So like I say, I have my protein shake. It's just protein powder. And then I have my lemon honey and ginger drink. So it's basically just a warm glass with a squeeze of lemon, a bit of grated ginger, and a teaspoon of honey. It doesn't have to be much. By the way, we're not talking huge amounts here, because you don't want it sitting in your stomach. So my drink has only got like a teaspoon of honey in it, which is just enough, 10 grams of honey or something like that. And then my protein shake, it's just a scoop of protein. So it's about 25 grams of protein and about 10 grams of carbohydrates. That's enough. It doesn't have to be huge. Like I say, or I'll just have a chunk of chicken about the size of the palm of my hand, and that's just enough. And I'll have that with, say, half a banana. So I'm not talking huge amounts here, but just if you nail that, and then see what a difference it makes to your training.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that, Sarah, and thank you for your time today talking about nutrient timing and bodybuilding. You're welcome. Really do appreciate it. And we'll of course talk to you again next month, but we'll talk about a different topic. So as a wellness explorer, I'm obviously interested to learn something new. I've never really considered nutrient timing, never considered how it might affect my workout, whether it's a strength conditioning workout or whether it's a run or something that's cardio. So really interesting insights from Sarah that I can obviously take into my workouts. And what about you? How has this impacted you? Please do tell us in the comments. And also, are you up for the challenge? Are you going to join me in the challenge that Sarah's left us with? If you are, please do mention that in the comments below. And also come back and tell us how you've got on with that. And you'll be able to see my findings from that in my challenge roundup video in a couple of weeks' time. To get that video and all of our latest health and wellness uploads, including interviews and reviews, please subscribe and hit the bell to get notified whenever we post. And if this channel can help your friends and family, please do share it with them too. Also, if you want to get proactive with your health and wellness, then Total Wellness Club are developing health quests for you over at questly.life. Join while we're developing the site, and you'll get instant access to health quests that immediately personalise your health. You'll get to identify which of 10 critical health categories need your attention. You'll be able to track your progress, and you'll be able to help us develop the platform as we go. I'll put a link in the description below so that you can get to Questly, and I'll see you next week.